1st, 2020. The telcos filed for review petitions, modification pleas, which were dismissed by the Supreme Court. Afterwards, the telcos paid some amount basis the self-assessment, which was again quashed by the Supreme Court, and the court asked them to pay the full amounts. Finally, the court came out with a verdict which required the telcos to pay the entire amount, the entire dues in 10 years, starting March 22, with an upfront payment of around 10% and by March 2021. So the three telcos which are primarily impacted by this verdict, Bharti Airtel Limited, Vodafone Idea Limited, and the Tata Teleservices Group, together they owed a total amount of 1.19 lakh crore as the AGR dues, of which they paid around 30,000 crores already, and a balance of 89,000 crore remains to be paid. The Supreme Court judgment, although brings a clarity, but still there remains a gray area in terms of the upfront payment that is required to be made, as the telecom operators are claiming that they've already made more than 10% of the payments, while the DOT is expecting an upfront payment of the balance amount by March 21. Assuming that in fact an upfront payment is required, the telcos will have to shell out around 8,900 crores in this fiscal by March 21. This will be followed by EMIs of around 12,000 crores per year starting FY22. Now, this adds to the overall annual payouts that the telcos are required to make and dampens the financial succor provided by the Government of India by way of the moratorium on the auction installments over 2 years, that is FY21 and 22. Moreover, ICRA expects that the spectrum auctions which are proposed in the current fiscal, they can fetch somewhere around 50,000 crores to the exchequer, resulting in an upfront payment of around 20,000 crore. In addition, telcos are also required to pay those regular revenue share to the DOT in the form of license fees and spectrum charges, which are as some fixed percentage of the adjusted gross revenues. So if you add up all these things, they add up to around 50,000 crore for FY21, and they shoot up to rupees 69,000 crore for FY23. Big numbers. So here, to meet these sizable payments, ARPU improvement should be the only way forward, and telcos need to speed dial tariff hikes. While in the past 4-5 quarters, an uptick in the ARPU has been witnessed, which was primarily on account of the implementation of the minimum recharge plans to start with, along with the steady upgradation of the customers from 2G to 4G and consistent increase in the usage. And finally, the major impact came when the tariff hikes were announced in December 2019. Now, India has one of the lowest ARPUs in the world, indicating adequate headroom for increasing the prices. Just to give a comparison, the ARPUs in China are around 4 times that of in US are more than 3 times that of India. So there's still enough headroom to increase the ARPUs. However, given the price, the sensitivity of the customers, it remains to be seen by what quantum and what is the timeliness of this tariff hike. Further, the obligations are increasing, and ARPU improvement will be a must for meeting these. ICRA also expects that the telcos would be required to increase the ARPUs to around 220 rupees in the medium term, which will be a prerequisite for business sustainability and would drive adequate returns for the industry. Now, 220, the number that we've quoted, while it looks easier and smooth path for Bharti Airtel Limited, wherein the ARPU in June stood at 157, would be an uphill task for Vodafone Idea, which reported an ARPU of 114 in Q1. The increase in ARPU for VIL would be sharp given the higher AGR payouts that are required to be made. Moreover, the industry needs to hike tariffs in order to meet the annual payouts, along with doing the consistent capex which is required, coupled with inorganically deleveraging their balance sheets amid elevated debt levels. ARPU improvement would also result in the improvement in revenue and profitability, and in turn, the betterment of the debt coverage indicators of the industry as a whole. So we saw the industry AGR witnessed a healthy growth in FY20, primarily in Q4, when the AGR expanded by around 33% on year-on-year basis, as the impact of the tariff hikes came into picture. Although the nationwide lockdown had a bearing on the upgradation of the subscribers from 2G to 4G, as well as limited the physical recharges, which resulted in moderation in the AGR growth in Q1 FY21, which stood at around 12% on a year-on-year basis. However, Q1 there were some adjustments which are required to be made, as BSNL AGR was not reported in the Q1 numbers. So on a like-to-like basis, the growth was around 24% on a year-on-year basis and are almost flattish on a quarter-on-quarter basis. The ARPU expansion would point towards the steady restoration of the pricing power to the telecom operators, which is expected to continue going forward. This is likely to result in industry reporting a growth in the operating income of around 12 to 15% annually for FY21 and FY22, with revenues reaching around 2.7 lakh crore for FY22. Consequently, the EBITDA is estimated to expand by around 22 to 25% per annum, given the high operating leverage, and is expected to cross rupees 1 lakh crore for FY22. With this, the debt coverage metrics are expected to improve, with interest coverage increasing to around 2.2 times for FY21 and 2.7 times for FY22, from a low of 1.8 times for FY2020. While debt to EBITDA is estimated to improve to 5.9 times for 21 and 4.6 times for FY22, from 6.7 times for FY20. Still, they are weak, right? Despite all these improvements, the coverage indicators still remain weak and the debt levels continue to remain high. The industry took a series of deleveraging measures in FY20, which resulted in a decline in debt to around 4.4 lakh crore as on March 31, 2020, from a high of around 5 lakh crore as on March 31, 2019. Now in 2021, we expect there are two major additions to the debt. One is we assume the addition of AGR liability to debt in the form of deferred payment liability. And the other one is on account of the proposed spectrum auctions. So these two would result in further increase in the industry debt to around 4.9 lakh crore as on March 31, 2021. Before these debt levels moderate to around 4.65 lakh crore as on March 31, 2022. When we say the debt figure of 4.9 lakh crore, these include debt of around 50 to 55,000 crores for the telcos which are under NCLT, and spectrum debt of around 1.8 lakh crore for FY21. The spectrum debt was around 1.6 lakh crore for March 20, and the proposed spectrum auction would result in increase in the spectrum debt, although the next repayment of the debt falls in FY23. Before we proceed to the outlook section, we would just require you to answer one more poll for us. Anju, can we have the poll, please? Thank you. Thank you. There is one more related question. Anju, can we have the fourth question, please? Thank you. So, towards the end, we still maintain a negative outlook on the Indian telecom industry. The industry, although witnessed green shoots of recovery in the form of one of the steepest tariff hikes implemented in December 2019, moderation in the capex intensity, and deferment of the spectrum payments, which are likely to result in the improved cash flow generation for the industry. However, the relatively shorter time frame allowed by the Supreme Court for the payment of the AGR dues dampens the impact and is likely to keep the debt levels elevated. The unyielding debt levels, they continue to remain the Achilles heel for the industry. And with these debt levels and weak coverage indicators amid the sizable obligation, we still maintain a negative outlook on the industry, despite the said moderation in capex intensity and steady improvement in the ARPUs. The telecom operators will have to find avenues to reduce their debt, which can be organic in the form of further monetization of the assets like fiber, data, etc., data centers, etc. In addition to the consistent improvement in the cash flow generation, which will be the inorganic ways of deleveraging. The outlook revision would depend on the timeliness and the quantum of the tariff hikes, as well as any meaningful support from the government in the form of introduction of the floor prices or reduction in the levies, and maybe significant asset monetization or equity infusion plans by the telcos. Further, given the precarious position of the balance sheet of the industry, Tata expects that India is likely to give a miss to the 5G call for at least for some time. This is because 5G would require sizable capex in the form of setting up of efficient and widespread fiber backhaul infrastructure, in addition to acquisition of the spectrum, which is still very pricey. Moreover, the device ecosystem and application ecosystem are still in very nascent stages, and even the 4G penetration is on the lower side, along with the ARPU levels, which still have in which there is still a scope for improvement. With this, we come to an end of the presentation, and we would now open the floor for question and answers, if any. Thank you very much. So it is like kind of a general consensus. I mean, not exactly consensus, but we all feel that we are not likely to pay higher price for 5G services as of now.
So to start with the question and answer, maybe the questions which had come to us offline, I'll start with that. One question which came was on what is the expected participation in the spectrum auctions, and when are they slated to happen?
While there are some maturities which are coming up in June to September 2021, and if we go by that, the spectrum auctions should happen in the current fiscal loan itself. Although we had seen some traction in the form of government appointing the agencies, etc., However, after that, there was a lull period, and we have not heard anything from the DOT on that. But they should happen in the current fiscal to maintain the continuity of the operations and renew the expiries which are slated in 800 megahertz and the 1800 megahertz bands. We expect the participation to the tune of around 50,000 crores to renew the expiries, of which we expect the upfront payment to be around 20,000 crores, 20 to 25,000 crores.
A related question is, could you elaborate on your assumptions for increase in the spectrum debt?
Yeah, so as I said, there are two factors. One is the spectrum auction, around 50,000 crores of participation in the spectrum, and around 80 odd thousand crores of addition of the AGR liabilities that we've assumed in the form of deferred payment liability in the debt. So those are the major factors which result in the increment in debt.
Also, some participant has requested what is the scenario of spectrum sharing? Can auction scenario change once spectrum sharing is taken in a big way?
So spectrum sharing is happening. It was in fact happening when we had a larger number of operators. But as of now, with these three operators, there is no sharing agreement per se as of now. It was maybe because of the intense competition that was there in the past. And we don't foresee any spectrum sharing, at least in the near term. So that is why the spectrum participation would be to the tune of around 50 odd thousand crore that we've assumed.
The next question is related to 5G. What is the state of 5G in India and what's the global scenario?
Okay, globally, China is leading in terms of the 5G subscription. They have launched the services and they are steadily, increasing their 5G base. They have achieved a decent number in that. US has also launched these services. Overall, worldwide also, the pandemic has delayed the launch of 5G or its auctions in many nations which were around the verge of launching these services. One of the Ericsson mobility reports expect that worldwide there would be around 150 to 200 million 5G subscribers by the end of calendar year 2020. India, there are some issues, some gray areas in which there is a lack of clarity. One is in terms of the spectrum availability, 5G spectrum availability. There is still some spectrum which is with defense and with the space. And the telcos are demanding to have a higher share of 5G spectrum. Second, there has been a delay in the allocation of the spectrum for trials, and then there has been a delay in the spectrum auctions, and then further delay in the spectrum auctions can also push the 5G implementation. Now, apart from the policy related issues, 5G, as we said, that would require sizable investment on the network densification by way of fiber, small cells, mobile towers, etc. Achieving high speeds make fiber connectivity extremely essential, and fiberization scenario in India is still very weak. India's high population density will also require a deeper and denser fiber network. Just a brief number, India has around 540,000 towers, of which around 30 to 40% are fiberized, as against a high number of 75 to 80% in China. So it's still a long way to go here in India.
The next question is regarding the capex intensity going forward, given the surge in the data requirements and the deteriorating network experience.
So the capex, what we understand is the capacity utilization is still around 75 to 80%. So there is still some scope in terms of the existing capacities. But having said that, there has been a surge in the data consumption. The data consumption, which used to be earlier, peaking in the morning and the evening hours, is now almost consistently high. So deployment of small sites, massive MIMO networks, massive MIMO technology, these have kind of taken care of the sudden upsurge in the demand for now. But yeah, going forward, increasing fiberization and greater tower base would be required to keep a to maintain the network quality as well as to meet the data requirements.
There are a few questions on the overall structure of the industry. So I'm just clubbing all of them, which relate to what is the future of Vodafone Idea Limited and BSNL and the prospects of their survival, or how would the industry structure emerge going forward?
Okay, so while there were question marks on the industry structure when the AGR verdict came in, and it was assumed that immediate payment was required. But given the timeline offered by the Supreme Court and the plans that have come up in the public, wherein Vodafone Idea, the board has approved the fundraising, and BSNL has also raised around 8,500 crores of sovereign bonds. So the it appears that these are making efforts to survive in the longer run. Although the financial position is still precarious, the fundraising which is proposed or done, this should help the telcos sustain the near to medium term. And in the meanwhile, they will have to shift to higher gears when it comes to ARPU improvement, which should increase the business sustainability going forward.
So the next question is, how has the lockdown impacted the fixed line segment and any traction expected on the fixed line front?
So fixed line was it was a perfect condition for the fixed line to cherish, but and they have inherent benefit in terms of stable connection, higher speeds, etc. But in this work from home regime, online classes, increased binge watching, they could have put the spotlight back in the fixed line segment, but no major traction was witnessed in the first 4 or 5 months. The segment still remains grossly underpenetrated. The penetration in India is only 8% in terms of the households, vis-a-vis penetration of more than 80% in countries like US, UK, France, China, and Germany. So we still expect that there is scope for improvement here. And the operators have come up with lower tariff plans, but not major traction was witnessed in this segment.
The next question is regarding the fiberization levels for RJio, Bharti and Vodafone Idea in terms of what are the current levels and what is the fiber laid in kilometers for the players.
This I will need to check.
And we can take it offline in that
case.
Yeah,
we can take it.
A related question to the previous one was, won't broadband growth cannibalize mobile ARPU? Players with good broadband outreach would have an edge.
Sorry, Anupama, can you repeat?
It's more of a comment regarding won't broadband growth cannibalize mobile ARPU, and players with good broadband outreach would have an edge.
It is not the case. Internationally also, we see very high penetration of, they coexist. Broadband is also there, and the mobile wireless is also there. It is just that in India, the wireless data consumption has gone up significantly, and the advantage of mobility comes into picture. So you can watch whatever you want to watch on the go. and you given 1 GB per day or 1.5 GB per day data plan. So the data allowance is also high, and the prices were also low, which resulted in flourishing of the wireless segment. But it is not the case that fixed line can cannibalize the wireless. They can coexist. But given the under penetration of the fixed line segment, it is visible that in India, at least, wireless is taking over the fixed line segment.
The next question is regarding the outlook on the tower industry, given the consistent weakness of VIL and BSNL.
Uh, the current outlook, ICRA's outlook on the tower industry is also negative, given the weak credit profile of the customers. We don't expect the tenancy ratios to increase in the near to medium term. They will continue to remain under pressure. Tenancy ratios I'm talking about, as the expansion is likely to be limited to a single tenant only. However, still the business model is sound, and the tower companies will be a valuable partner during the 5G regime, as a sizable rollout would be required for the towers. So there, the tower companies will come into picture.
This is another question relating to the what would be the impact of Chinese equipment vendors being sidelined in terms of on the capex intensity.
Uh, so while some days back DOT has clarified that they are not banning the Chinese vendors, but clearly the telcos have opted for European vendors for their 4G and 5G implementations. While we all agree that Huawei and ZTE have world-class 5G innovations, there are certain constraints which have led to the telcos focusing on the European vendors. So it would be an expensive proposition for sure, and it would increase the capex by 10 to 15% at least.
The next question is regarding the coverage of towers for a pan-India coverage of 5G. How many incremental towers would be required versus 4G?
Uh, so 5G is more about better speeds and the applications which require very real-time updation. So one is requirement of the fiberized towers, and second is the requirement of more denser network of the towers. Can't put a number exactly in terms of the number, but it would be higher than the other previous technologies, as a denser network of towers would be needed. Looks like we are done. We still our contact details are there on the slide in case anyone wishes to get in touch with us, can get in touch there. Sabyasachi, would you have anything to add here? Or maybe you can give the closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Ankit. Thanks, Ankit and Anupama, for the presentation, and thanks to everyone here for being an attentive and participative audience. Myself, Ankit, Anupama, all of us are available separately also for any further queries or clarification that you may have. So please feel free to reach out to us. And on that note, I close the webinar. Thank you very much.